everyone, and welcome back to my channel for another Pokemon Draft League! I have had so much fun competing in the Wolf Draft League as well as the Struckle Premier League that I decided to take part in yet another Draft League. This time, we're facing off against the other casters that commentate the Pokemon trading card game, Pokemon Go, and of course, the Pokemon video game on the official streams. And we get to find out once and for all who is the best caster for Draft League. Draft Leagues are super exciting because you play as the coach, and you draft a team of Pokemon that you will coach throughout the season. The most interesting part is that only one coach can draft any one Pokemon, so every roster is completely unique and with Pokemon from all across the power spectrum. For this season, we were required to draft a certain number of Pokemon per tier, and then we got 130 free points to draft 4 more Pokemon to give us a total of 12 to use throughout the season. Coaches are allowed to make a limited number of trades to change their roster to be stronger or more flexible throughout the season. I have notoriously not used this feature because I believe that the Pokemon that I draft from the very beginning should be the Pokemon that I ride or die with throughout the entire season. Because I believe in them. And I sort of believe in myself. Anyways, after the draft concluded, we got our new Shoutcasting Sylveon's roster, featuring Raging Volt, Alolan Ninetales, Galarian Moltres, Espatra, Gliscor, Galarian Slowbro, Scyther, Combuskin, Rillaboom, Sandy Shocks, Coughing, and Eevee. This caster draft league is going to be in the Regulation F format. Paradox Pokemon and Legendaries are legal, but for the sake of this draft league, some Pokemon have been banned, either because they were deemed too powerful or too meta-warping. I am really excited to be playing around Raging Bolt. Not only is Raging Bolt one of my absolute favorite Pokemon in designs, but I think it has a lot of flexibility, so I've crafted the rest of my drafting strategy around making Raging Bolt the centerpiece. A lot of the rest of the team is providing valuable damage coverage, as well as some unique utility, so we have lots of different strategies to play around with. Every Pokemon is one that I have never played a draft league before with, except for Scyther, so I'm really eager to learn more about what these Pokemon are capable of, and hopefully put together some fun videos for you all. We have 14 casters competing from all across the different Pokemon games. Because we have so many, we have split up the casters into 2 different competitive divisions, Blueberry and Kitakami. I am competing in the Blueberry division with Primetime Wizard, aka Wancho from the Pokemon trading card game stream, Alphaphoebe from Pokemon Go, Schmon from both VGC and TCG, and the rest of the division are people you have almost certainly seen on the VGC streams in Europe and North America. We've got Osirus, aka Lee Provost, Jake Muller, and Ben Kiriakou. In the Kitakami division, it's Zoe Liu, Jamie Boyd, Sierra Dawn, David Partington, and Costa Didymos. And from Pokemon Go, we have Tomahawk and Arceus Aurelius. Both divisions will play a round robin over 8 weeks, and then the top 4 from each division will go to the playoffs, where we will play a single elimination bracket to determine the winner. I've also notably not made a playoff yet, but I feel like we've been close in all of the draft leagues that we've played so far. Even in the Wolf Draft League, it felt like I was one match win or just a couple of game wins away from being able to make the playoffs because the season was just that close. So this time around, the goal is to make playoffs, and then we'll see what happens if/when we get there. Also, just as an aside, I think it is so cool that we have casters from Pokemon Go and the Pokemon TCG competing in a VGC draft league. One, I just have to give major kudos because I think that learning VGC in a Pokemon draft league environment is already harder than just learning VGC for the first time, just because draft plays so differently than regular VGC. But 2, it's just cool. So I'm really excited to see how they do this season. Without further ado, let's chat about our week 1 match versus Osirus. Osirus is coaching the Southwest Score Bunnies, a roster consisting of Chi-Yu, Dondozo, Kilowattrel, Breloom, Florges, Weirdeer, Hitmonlee, Meganium, Landorus, Tatsugiri, Delibird, and Palisand. This team already catches my eye because somehow we let Lee get both Dondozo and Tatsugiri. I feel like this happens every single season. We just let somebody get away with this for free, and unfortunately, I'm going to be the first one to go up against this formidable duo. Lee has some other pieces, though, that will be challenging, such as the Landorus Incarnate, which is one of the best Pokemon in Regulation F, as well as the Chi-Yu, who has great synergy with Landorus as a special attacker. The rest of Lee's team aren't exactly mainstays in Regulation F, but they all have their niche use cases, so I can't count anything out just yet. First off, let's talk about Dondozo and Tatsugiri. If you've been following competitive Pokemon since Scarlet and Violet released, then you've almost certainly seen how this duo functions. But just in case, let's cover the basics. Dondozo and Tatsugiri have natural synergy because of Tatsugiri's ability Commander, which allows Tatsugiri to combine with Dondozo if the two Pokemon are on the field together at the same time. Once Tatsugiri combines with Dondozo, Dondozo gets boosts to all of its stats by 2 stages, which makes it a huge, bulky physical threat. Dondozo is pretty good at these things by itself, but with the additional boosts, it can just be really annoying to get rid of, and then you have to worry about the Tatsugiri popping out once you've KO'd Dondozo. You do have to play Dondozo essentially as a 1v2 in this form, so I guess that was a small way to quote-unquote nerf it. I think Dondozo is good at 2 things, but I think one of its best assets are the abilities it gets access to. You may think to muscle your way through Dondozo with setup, but Unaware ignores opposing Pokemon's stat changes, both boosts and drops. So on the one hand, Dondozo is really good at dealing with things like opposing Sword Stance or Calm Mind boosts, but conversely, you can use Draco Meteor, which drops your special attack stat by 2 stages after use, and keep using it or any other similar attack against Dondozo as if you did not have those drops at all. So the Unaware ability can act as a double-edged sword. Oblivious blocks Intimidate, so Dondozo gets to keep all of its nice Commander attack boosts from Tatsugiri, and also prevents Taunt, so Dondozo can go for support options like Yawn without worry. Dondozo is also very good at attacking. It has access to strong water same type attack bonus attacks like Wave Crash, but it actually gets a surprising amount of coverage options like Earthquake, Rock Slide, Order Up, which is a signature move with Tatsugiri, and also Body Press and Heavy Slam, and even Fissure. It's going to be pretty difficult to predict what moves this Dondozo has, and especially if it has some sort of hidden super effective secret tech. Tatsugiri, on the other hand, probably won't be on the team without Dondozo. It doesn't operate by itself very well because it has a super limited move pool. Even though that move pool actually has some amazing gems in it like Muddy Water, Draco Meteor, and Icy Wind to take advantage of its high special attack stat, and supportive options like Taunt and Helping Hand, Tatsugiri is incredibly frail, which is not something you really want out of a support Pokemon. And besides, there isn't a lot that Tatsugiri can do on the team that other Pokemon on the roster can't fulfill. Let's talk about the other threats on Lee's team, the Chi-Yu and Landorus. There's a reason why both of these Pokemon are in the S tier, and that's because they are 2 of the most powerful Pokemon in the Regulation F format. As for abilities, Landorus has been a beast with its Sheer Force ability, increasing the power of Landorus's attacks by 30% if the attack has a secondary effect. But the secondary effect won't activate as a trade-off for the increased power. Chi-Yu's ability Beads of Ruin decreases the special defense of all other Pokemon on the field by 25%, so it's just a nice combo deal. Landorus has quite a few good attacks that can be powered up by Sheer Force. Landorus runs Terra Poison Sludge Bomb and also gets a same type attack bonus from moves like Earth Power and Sandsear Storm. Landorus is particularly funny because while its special attack stat is quite high, its attack stat is even higher, making it a multifaceted threat. The reason you don't see physical Landorus incarnate as often is because 1, Therian is just better if you have the option, and 2, the physical options it gets access to don't enable Sheer Force as well. None of its physical ground type attacks except for Bulldoze get a bonus because they don't have a secondary effect. I think there's a pretty interesting case of using things like Rock Slide and Crunch with something like an Expert Belt, but then you aren't getting the full power of the ability. It's technically legal for Lee to run Landorus with Sand Force, which increases the power of Rock, Ground, and Steel type moves by 30% during a sandstorm. But Lee could just run Sheer Force and get the exact same damage boost as running Sand Force without having to set up the sandstorm. Chi-Yu is fairly one-dimensional in my opinion. Its ability Beads of Ruin is great for itself and its allies, and Chi-Yu has a very high special attack stat, but it is best at fire and dark type attacks and gets little to no special coverage outside of Psychic and Hyper Beam. Chi-Yu does get some interesting tools like Reflect and Light Screen, and it is pretty common to see Chi-Yu with Will-O-Wisp. You can also run Taunt or Substitute if you're feeling frisky. Chi-Yu is relatively fast, but it definitely shines the most with its offense, so support of Chi-Yu is pretty unlikely. Those These 4 Pokemon feel like must-brings to me because they are the strongest Pokemon on Lee's roster. But Lee, I think, has a couple of different ways that he could round out the team, so let's go over those options next. Kilowattrel started to get very popular in Regulation H, where the power level was significantly lower because Paradox Pokemon and Legendary Pokemon were banned. Kilowattrel was especially good at Fast Tailwind because it had a speed stat of 125, but also had a respectable special attack stat with good same-type attack bonus options, so it could run things like Electro Web, Volt Switch, Discharge, and then Air Slash. I think Kilowattrel is also a Pokemon where you kind of know what you're getting when you see it. It's like Chi-Yu in that way. Its only coverage option is Weather Ball, so otherwise it's running all flying and electric type attacks, and then Tailwind and maybe Thunder Wave. Kilowattrel is the fastest Pokemon amongst our roster, so I could see it coming to set Tailwind and take speed control. Next, I think there's a pretty good case for Breloom, and it's actually one of the Pokemon I'm most concerned about this week. Particularly Breloom with Spore and Focus Sash. Breloom is not particularly fast, but it hits really hard with an attack stat of 130. And since it gets access to Spore, there are ways that Breloom can disrupt my team plan. Breloom also gets the Technician ability, boosting all attacks with less than 60 base power. This boosts its priority Mach Punch up to 60 base power, which is pretty scary, but it also boosts the power of Bullet Seed. Each Bullet Seed hit is calculated as its own 25 base power attack, and it can hit up to 5 times. That means that a 5-hit Technician boosted Bullet Seed is hitting you for 187 base power. Spooky. On the supportive side, Breloom could also be Effect Spore, which has a 30% chance to cause poison, paralysis, or sleep if an opposing Pokemon makes contact. And then on top of Spore, it gets Helping Hand, Stun Spore, Fake Tears, and Charm, which is a lot to keep in mind. So Breloom is a Pokemon I'm going to make sure I have some answers for this week, either in move selection or general game planning. Hitmonlee is Lee's other fighting type. Hitmonlee. It gets Unburden, which doubles its speed when its held item is consumed or lost, and its other useful ability is Reckless, which increases the power of moves that have recoil or crash damage by 20%. There's an interesting coaching mode available with Fast Taunt, but then everything else that seems helpful is priority, like Wide Guard, Helping Hand, and Fake Out. So I think if Hitmonlee does come to the match, it will probably be more offensive with a focus on coverage. It does get stronger moves than Breloom, but they're also not as accurate, so I think Breloom is still more likely to come if you are picking between both fighting type Pokemon. Wyrdeer is also very interesting. If Lee wants to lean more into a Trick Room mode, Wyrdeer can help to set that up, and then Lee can play around solo Dondozo, Palisand if he chooses to bring that, and Breloom, Florges, and Delibird are also on the slower side. I only really have Coughing, Galarian Slowbro, and Combuskin that would like to be in Trick Room, so I don't have a fantastic way to deal with it if it gets set up. Wyrdeer has flexibility to be run as a physical or special attacker because it has the same stat for both, but I think a huge drawback for Wyrdeer is that it's a normal type, and normal type moves aren't that strong, but the psychic type attacks are pretty good. Its signature move Psyshield Bash deals damage and raises Wyrdeer's defense by 1 stage, but you also have Zen Headbutt for slightly stronger, more reliable damage. On the special side, Wyrdeer gets Expanding Force, which can be a major threat if Lee can set up psychic terrain, and then you have Psychic, Psybeam, and Future Sight. There's some pretty nice available coverage moves for Grass, Ground, and Electric, but I do think the supportive options are where Wyrdeer will shine the most. Alongside Trick Room, it gets Thunder Wave, Helping Hand, Imprison, and Skill Swap to be creative. Wyrdeer also gets Intimidate, so it can lower the attack of my physical threats. Very real possibility that Wyrdeer comes this week. Finally, the last Pokemon I think might legitimately be fielded is Delibird. Look, I know this Pokemon is E tier, but hear me out. I actually think this is one of the sneakier threats that I have to look out for on Lee's team, because on paper, it's not very bulky, it's got a horrible attack stat, and its abilities are honestly awful, but it has some utility that I do not think can be ignored. For one, it has Tailwind and Fake Out, which is always super valuable. It also gets Icy Wind for an additional form of speed control. They could also choose to use my Ninetales Snow against me with things like Aurora Veil and Blizzard, so I definitely need to be careful of setting up the snow in front of Delibird. Like I said, sneaky beaky. Since this is a draft league and anything is possible, I want to quickly go over the rest of Lee's Southwest Score Bunnies roster, which includes Florges, Meganium, and Palisand. I think for the most part, these Pokemon are pretty weak into my team, but I want to make sure that my bases are covered in case they do make an appearance. Florges has a very high special defense stat, so it could come as a wall to my Raging Bolt. Its special attack stat is also pretty respectable, and with fairy type moves like Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam, it makes for a really good Raging Bolt counter. The only true coverage options it gets are Grass and Psychic, but with things like Pollen Puff, Trick, and Helping Hand, there are other ways that Florges can contribute to the team. Meganium, I think, is not good this week. It only thrives as a grass-type attacker, and its stats are pretty horrible. That is why this Pokemon is in the E tier. Sorry, Meganium, at least your Mega is cool. The most notable things about Meganium are definitely its support options. I think Encore is interesting, as well as its other stat decreases in Charm and Fake tiers, but it's just so slow, and Meganium doesn't get Chlorophyll as an ability, so you'd have to invest something like a Choice Scarf when I think that item is better on Chi-Yu this week. Lastly, there's Palossand, another E-tier Pokemon. It's super slow, so unless Lee wants to invest into Trick Room, I think Palossand is really unlikely. All of Lee's better Pokemon are naturally quite fast, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to invest into Trick Room this week. Palossand's moves are also pretty limited, and you need something to combo with each of its abilities, making it quite a challenging investment. In summary, I predict that Lee is going to bring Dondozo, Tatsugiri, Chi-Yu, Landorus, and honestly Delibird, with a strong possibility of rounding out the team with any of Weirdeer, Hitmonlee, Kilowattrel, and Breloom. So here's how I prep for this week, expecting those specific threats. As a quick reminder, the shoutcasting Sylveons are Raging Bolt, Alolan Ninetales, Galarian Moltres, Espatra, Gliscor, Galarian Slowbro, Scyther, Combuskin, Rillaboom, Sandy Shocks, Coughing, and Eevee. Just full transparency, Eevee is going to be riding the bench all season. We picked up Eevee exclusively to be a mascot and cheerleader for our team, and Eevee will do their absolute best. I have full faith we will get good luck this season with Eevee being on our team. This week it's Raging Bolt, Ninetales, Rillaboom, Scyther, Sandy Shocks, and Espatra. Raging Bolt is our star of the roster, and the Pokemon that I built my entire draft plan around, so of course it's going to be coming to our first match of the season. Raging Bolt is here to be a beast. It's holding an Assault Vest, so it has the necessary bulk versus Lee's big special attackers, Landorus, Chi-Yu, and Kilowattrel. But these three Pokemon actually cause quite an issue for Raging Bolt's Terra type. Landorus Incarnate is Raging Bolt's natural predator, so I was first looking at good Terra types to counter Landorus, like Bug and Grass, but those Terra types are weak to Chi-Yu. So I looked at something more neutral like Flying and Water, but unfortunately those Terra types are weak to Kilowattrel. I decided for Water anyways because while Water is weak to Breloom and Kilowattrel, we have other answers to both of those Pokemon that makes terastallizing Raging Bolt later in the game better once we've dealt with those threats. Of course, with Assault Vest, we don't have access to Protect, so we'll need to be careful about Raging Bolt's positioning. But otherwise, we have a fairly standard moveset with Draco Meteor, Thunderbolt, Thunderclap, and our special sauce this week, Weather Ball. We are bringing Alolan Ninetales, so I'm hoping that Weather Ball will catch an unsuspecting Landorus or Kilowattrel off guard. If Lee for some reason decided to lean into a sand mode with Palossand and Landorus, then Weather Ball would turn into a rock type attack, and that could be a really fun coverage option to have. Raging Bolt this week is trained to be able to survive an Earth Power from Landorus with Life Orb and Sheer Force as long as Chi-Yu's Beads of Ruin are not active. If Chi-Yu is on the field, then we should also be able to survive a Life Orb Earth Power and Choice Spec Dark Pulse from Chi-Yu if Raging Bolt has terastallized to the Water type. Even if a Water type, the special defensive training will also allow us to survive at least 2 non-boosted Thunderbolts from Kilowattrel. So Assault Vest is definitely coming in clutch this week. Raging Bolt will do a good amount of damage to everything that isn't Florges, so if Florges does come this week, we're going to need to KO everything else around it and leave the Florges for last. Ninetales is max speed and special attack, so we can guarantee a speed tie on modest max special attack Kilowattrel and an outspeed on adamant Dondozo and Tatsugiri. Our anti-Dondozo Tatsugiri mode is Encore and Disable from Ninetales. If the Dondozo with Commander boosts ends up being faster than Ninetales, then it's jolly max speed, so we know it won't be hitting as hard as Adamant. Having max special attack Blizzard will allow our damage calculations to be a bit more favorable when we get our priority move Pokemon, like Raging Bolt and Rillaboom, in there to clean up. Rillaboom is there to support Raging Bolt and also provide a valuable counter to Spore Breloom. Rillaboom is trained to survive a modest max special attack Air Slash from Kilowattrel, but it won't survive anything else. Rillaboom is faster than max speed Breloom, so we can taunt it to shut off Spore. We of course can use Fake Out to buy a turn as well. Rillaboom has Miracle Seed, so it's doing big damage with Grassy Glide as an anchor in the endgame, and then Wood Hammer if we get lucky. Scyther is making a reappearance on the team. I loved using it in the Wolf Draft League, and it is just a highly versatile Pokemon, being able to both do good damage and also support with things like Tailwind. This week, Scyther has Dual Wing Beat, Close Combat, and U-Turn, along with Protect, and it's holding an Eviolite for bulk. Scyther will make a really great lead if I can find out whether the Chi-Yu is Choice Scarf. If Chi-Yu is not holding Choice Scarf, then Scyther is naturally super fast and can do big damage to a lot of Lee's team. We have Dual Wing Beat for a super effective hit into Hitmonlee and Breloom, Close Combat for Chi-Yu, and then U-Turn is just great for being able to make a pivot if we feel like we need better positioning. Lastly, I am so excited about this, but I have been dying to use Espatra and Sandy Shocks in combination with one another, and it is time. I have absolutely no hesitation and no morals. I do not feel bad for locking in Gravity and Hypnosis this week. I actually think it's really good into Lee's faster Pokemon like Landorus and Chi-Yu, among other things. Espatra's ability is Speed Boost, so it will get a 1-stage increase to its speed stat at the end of every turn. The beauty of that is with just 1 Speed Boost, my Espatra will be faster than my Sandy Shocks, so turn 1 we can go Gravity on Sandy Shocks and then Hypnosis on Espatra. Gravity grounds Pokemon and also increases the accuracy of attacks used by a modifier of 5/3, which makes Hypnosis 100% accurate. On turn 2, when my Espatra is faster, we can use Lumina Crash to do damage and drop the target's special defense stat by 1 stage, and Sandy Shocks can clean up with an attack. I don't always need to go for Gravity and Hypnosis when Espatra and Sandy Shocks are on the field. Espatra can also chip effectively with Dazzling Gleam. With Terra Fairy, we'll do even more and also provide us a valuable defensive Terra to stand up to attacks from the Chi-Yu. And we can also use it as a tool to scout for if Chi-Yu is Choice Scarf, depending on whether Chi-Yu ends up being faster than Espatra or not. Choice Scarf Chi-Yu would actually be a pretty big problem because then Chi-Yu would be faster than my entire team. So we need to be really careful about making sure we don't use Terra too early, and we also need to scout effectively. If Chi-Yu isn't Choice Scarf, our games become a lot easier, and then we can go for things like Scyther in the lead and get positive damage trades that way. Espatra is trained to survive max special attack earth power from Landorus as long as Chi-Yu's Beads of Ruin aren't active. Espatra can also survive a max Choice Specs Heat Wave from Chi-Yu 82% of the time. I think you get the idea that for a lot of the training on our Pokemon this week, there was a huge emphasis on making sure we could take positive damage trades against Lee's super powerful Pokemon, namely the Chi-Yu and Landorus. And if we can survive a big hit or get information, then that really helps us achieve our goal. In terms of our game plans this week, Game 1, I definitely plan on leading into the Sandy Shocks and Espatra combo, going for our Gravity and Hypnosis game plan. I can bring Scyther in the back, plus anything that I feel like is going to effectively deal with the 6 that Lee brought to the match. Since I'm prepping for a full team of 12, it's going to be way easier to make that decision in the moment once I see what Lee has really locked into for the week. Turn 1, Gravity and Hypnosis. Pretty simple. We can use Hypnosis on whatever I feel like is going to be the biggest immediate threat. Turn 2, Espatra should be faster than Sandy Shocks after a speed boost, so then we can start going for Lumina Crash and having Sandy Shocks pick up all the KOs with follow-up damage. Game 2, if the Gravity and Hypnosis game plan work, then we can definitely run it back. We can potentially change up the Pokemon in the back depending on what Lee brought and what potential adjustments I feel like he could make for Game 2. A couple of alternative plans that I have, just in case the Gravity and Hypnosis doesn't work out, is I can lead Raging Bolt and Rillaboom and have Scyther +1 in the back. Raging Bolt and Rillaboom as a lead is pretty safe into everything that isn't Landorus, and it's especially good if it's into Dondozo or Breloom. Another alternative game plan is if we find out that the Chi-Yu isn't Choice Scarf, then we can lead Scyther and Ninetales and bring Raging Bolt +1 in the back. On turn 1, we can go for Blizzard and U-Turn and have the Scyther switch out for Raging Bolt if there is a safe switch available. Ninetales and Sandy Shocks are pretty situational this week. Ninetales is almost never going to come unless Scyther is in the lead, so we can utilize one of our alternative game plans. Sandy Shocks is never going to get fielded without Espatra. And then Scyther, if we find out that the Chi-Yu is Choice Scarfed, then Scyther is going to get benched because it's just going to be fish food. Ninetales and Sandy Shocks are pretty situational this week. Ninetales likely won't come at all unless it's with Scyther in the lead, so we can utilize one of our alternative game plans. Sandy Shocks will almost never come without Espatra present. And then for Scyther, if we do find out that the Chi-Yu is Choice Scarfed, then Scyther's getting benched because Scyther will just be fish food. So there you have it! Week 1 is prepped and I'm feeling pretty good about this one. I can't wait to play against Lee, who is one of my good friends and also someone who I am honored to say that I have worked almost 6 years alongside. We have casted multiple world championships and international championships together on the same commentary team, and even some of the Players' Cups if you remember those from back in the day. So I really hope this is going to be a good and fun match. Let's get started! Alright, for week 1 of the Caster Draft League, I am going to be going up against one of my good friends, Lee Provost, aka Osirus. His team is really scary. I already see the Landorus and the Chiyu, which was the first pair that I was particularly nervous about, just given that it has really great special attacks and the Beads of Ruin are going to make those even stronger. But I'm super happy to not see Dondozo or Tatsugiri as a part of this list. Instead, we've got Delibird, Kilowattrel, Weirdeer, and Florges. Florges, for the most part, feels like it's there to be a Raging Bolt answer. And then, of course, with the Kilowattrel, we need to be worried about things like Tailwind, as well as it just going for things like Discharge next to the Landorus, since it would be immune to it. And then you also just have the potential for it to be Volt Absorb, so I wouldn't be able to hit it with something from Sandy Shocks or from the Raging Bolt. Now, the Delibird is there, one, because I think that it could go for Blizzard spam, but it also does have access to some really great supportive options. And then hopefully for the Weirdeer, that's not something that ends up kind of catching us too much by surprise. I think I'm still going to stick to kind of what I said. I think I'm just going to go for this with the Scyther as well as the Raging Bolt in the back. I'm going to leave the Ninetales at home for now until we can confirm whether or not there is actually a Choice Scarf that is on that Chiyu. And if we confirm that there's a Choice Scarf on the Chiyu, then we need to kind of like change our game plan entirely. But for now, we actually see the Kilowattrel as well as the Chiyu. So my Sandy Shocks in front of this Kilowattrel should be faster. That is also so pretty because the Chiyu is shiny. But yes, my Sandy Shocks should be faster than the Kilowattrel now that the booster energy has activated. And so I honestly think this just might be a turn where I go for Protect here. And I don't feel like Ultra Omega threatened by something like the Chiyu, but I am a little bit nervous. Oh man, maybe I actually do Terrasilize the Espatra and we just go for like a Hypnosis right away. I think that would probably be the best thing. I'm more worried about, I think, like the Chiyu than anything here. And so I think this is the play. Now, obviously, the Chiyu is going to disappear. Oh, it's going to be the Landorus that actually comes out. So take the Chiyu's place. I actually don't know the interaction here. Since Landorus and Kilowattrel are both flying types, does gravity actually ground them and make them susceptible to ground type attacks? I don't know. Maybe this Terastallization was kind of useless. But we are going to go for the gravity. And I thought maybe Florges would actually come... See? They fell from the sky. That's so funny. Oh, Electro Web is going to hit the Espatra, so there is going to be a bit of speed control here. But obviously, since we have speed boost, that's going to be something that negates it at the end of the turn. But we do actually put the Landers to sleep, which is amazing. And then we should be able to help with this Kilowattrel as well. Now, this is a little awkward. I would have hoped on the second turn that Espatra would have actually been faster than my Sandy Shocks here. With a speed boost, it would have been, but since we got the speed drop from the Electro Web, we're back to neutral. I think I could still go for... I think Hypnosis here is still fine. I don't think the Kilowattrel can completely hit me. Can I, like... Does this work? Does this work? If I miss it... Maybe I just, like, knock out the Kilowattrel. Oh, no. Oh, bummer. Okay. Well, honestly, this is a pretty neutral turn. It would have been nice to actually get either of those attacks into the Kilowattrel, but I don't think I actually lose out on anything here. Because now with the speed boost from the Espatra on this turn, I can actually just go for Lumina Crash and punch into the Landorus, and I actually think that now that it's grounded, I think that's exactly what I should do. Lumina Crash, and then I just go for Earth Power into the Landorus. The way that that combo is going to work is Lumina Crash once it connects onto the Landorus, assuming that it doesn't wake up on this first turn and get a Protect or something like that. We can go for Lumina Crash, and the special defense drop should make it so that the Earth Power actually cleans up the rest of the Landorus's HP. Kilowattrel goes bye-bye, and I love that for us. I think Kilowattrel, while it will end up being pretty crucial later on, I think that the fact that Weirdeer is switching in now is not good. Lumina Crash is going to do a nice chunky bit of damage to the Landorus, and the Earth Power should clean it up. We love gravity spam. I was so nervous that that wasn't going to work the way that I thought it did. But on paper, I was thinking, well, I feel like I've seen this before. Gravity should drop the flying types and then make them vulnerable to ground type damage. So I actually think this works out beautifully. Now with the speed boosts, yeah, Kilowattrel gets to come back out. But I really don't know how much I care about that. We know that Kilowattrel has Protect, but I think at this point, we really just want to get rid of the Weirdeer. We don't... Ooh. No, I think we actually just go for a Hypnosis onto the Kilowattrel. And if anything... Yeah, I think that's fine. Oh my god. This feels so bad, but... Okay, well, we know that the Chiyu is in the back. If the Weirdeer, for some reason, sets up... Oh, it's going for Calm Mind. Okay, well, it's not, like, amazing, but what is this Weirdeer actually going to do to us? Weirdeer, as an offensive threat, is... It doesn't really feel like it's that big, but there was one combination of moves that I was nervous about with the Weirdeer. With the Chiyu coming back out onto the field, obviously, it's not, like, amazing. I think I'm just going to put it to sleep, no? If it can't... If it doesn't protect, then I think it's Choice Scarf, and I think that will tell me everything that I need to know. So this is actually really important. Weirdeer goes for Protect, but what does the Chiyu do? Because if the Chiyu doesn't protect here... Yeah, I think it's Choice Scarf. I actually think it's Choice Scarf. Otherwise, I feel like Lee would have protected the Chiyu, knowing that it's a huge threat in this first game. I do think... Wow, well that was surprising. Oh, well it was a crit. I don't really learn much from that. Oh, that's too bad. Wow, I was kind of hoping that I would learn something there. Because I would be able to tell if it was bulk investment into the Chiyu or not. But I do think it's Choice Scarf if he didn't click Protect. So that's very valuable information. And I didn't have to give up anything in terms of what was in the back. That's crazy. All right. Lumina Crash, and what is more powerful here? I guess it doesn't really matter, does it? I'll just keep going for Earth Power. That way I don't give up any information. Lumina Crash does barely anything. And that's because the Weirdeer is a Psychic type, but the -2 special defense drop, this Weirdeer is actually still quite tanky. How much is it going to do? It does have Psychic. Wow, it doesn't even take out my Espatra. That's insane. It has... Leftovers. Okay. Leftovers is very good to know. I'm learning a lot here. I have not really learned much about any of these Pokemon, though. This is... Well, I guess I don't really have to do anything different. I do think I just kind of hit things. That will be game number 1 after we clean up this weird year and we move on to game 2 of this best of 3. So after that game number 1, I do have some decisions to make. It worked so well. And thinking about what Lee actually ended up bringing in terms of the weird year, I really feel like I should just do the same thing. I'm not entirely sure how Lee adjusts to this, right? So like, do I go with the same thing or do I change it up? I have a horrible feeling that the Chiyu is choice scarfed. Especially knowing that he switched it out at the very beginning of the game. But do I get punished by a Landorus and a Chiyu lead? I don't think so. I think I just do the same thing and just see if he can beat it. There's no Breloom. I don't have to worry about any of that. But then I think I do this, actually, because I don't think that the Scyther in the back is going to work if for some reason there is... If for some reason we get into a situation where Lee has brought the Chiyu to the first game at the very beginning, and then, like, he does the same thing. Oh, it's Delibird this time. Oh! That's scary. Well, here's the thing. Delibird has a speed of 75. If he has completely maxed this... Actually, we'll get a really good read here, too. If the Choice Scarf actually isn't on the Chiyu and it's on the Delibird instead... Well, I think we just go for double protect, no? There's fake out on this Delibird, for sure. There's fake out on this Delibird. He can only fake out one, but I do think it's a little bit better if... Oh, I guess he could have faked out the Spatra, huh? Well, is this really that bad for me if I just go for double protect? Maybe I'm reading into the fact that the Delibird has too many supportive options, but I really feel like this should... Text this time. He's learned from the last mistake. Oh, it has... Oh, well now that's actually quite interesting. So Landorus does not have the choice card. It's gonna double its speed and Tailwind, and I actually think it might be faster than us now. But my Espatra just got a speed boost. Can he KO both Pokemon? I can't believe I let that up for free. I really thought that the Delibird would have gone for Fake Out. But it can't do that now, so... Do I just like... I think I YOLO. I think I YOLO Swaggins. Go! I'm gonna YOLO the... I'm actually just gonna YOLO the Hypnosis. I shouldn't be faster. But I'm pretty sure that's Chiyu coming in. Oh, it's not. It's Florges. That has Aroma Veil. I won't be able to put it to sleep. Oh. No, but it misses anyway, so I don't get that information. Either way... Oh, no! This has been such an unfair game. Now that the Espatra is faster, and the Landorus went for Sludge Bomb, which I think is kind of wild. Why did he do that? I think that's a good thing, though, because he could have scouted if I had... Well, now that's odd, isn't it? I should move first. I'm just gonna hit it with the Lumina Crash. I'm gonna go after the Florges. And then I have to remember that there is a Delibird in the back. But now that my Espatra is faster, I realistically think with the amount of damage that I just did that this is a 2-hit knockout. Okay, so as I kind of expected, we've got the Sandy Shocks down. Unfortunately, oh, the Florges is kind of annoying, isn't it? Oh, 2 Calm Mind Pokemon on this team. I get another speed boost, but I'm pretty sure that I can just kind of, you know, clean up here. I would like to get this on the field now. I mean, if it ends up being... I think Lumina Crash realistically picks up the KO onto the Landorus. So I kind of feel like if it protects, then maybe I really think that I should get this. So I'm going to just Woodhammer the Florges. And if it protects, then that's even better, right? Because I should be able to get the KO onto the Florges. Maybe I should have gone after the Florges with the Lumina Crash expecting the protect, but I'm still faster than this Florges because the paralysis. Tailwind is not going to override that. It just basically equalizes it. So that was a really great Woodhammer from the Rillaboom. Big knockout there, and there's no more Tailwind. Espatra is kind of just getting out of control. One more Lumina Crash into the Landorus should send it flying. And then have to imagine that it's going to be Chi-Yu that's going to be the 4th and final Pokemon in the back. If the Chi-Yu comes out here, it's obviously not amazing because I think that my Rillaboom does just get KO'd. But if it's just the Delibird in the back by the end of this, then I'm not really sure what this Delibird does to us. So for now, it is definitely just going to be a Lumina Crash into the Landorus. Oh, unless it goes for a cheeky double protect. But I'm kind of hoping at the end of this, I'm just dealing with the Chi-Yu. So I'm going to go ahead and Terra, just in case the Landorus does get the double protect here. My Espatra should survive. Bare minimum 1 attack from this Chi-Yu, unless it goes for the Overheat. And then hopefully I've done enough. I want to say that Lumina Crash can KO the Landorus. I'm gonna get Grassy Glide damage to just do bare minimum something into this Chi-Yu. Even though I know it's gonna be resisted, I'm still holding some tricks. Oh, but the Landorus is actually going to Terrasilize to the Steel type. I totally forgot about Terra. I actually don't know if this KOs now. Either way, that's actually a good bit. But Beads of Ruin is active. Oh, but it's a resisted hit. So yeah, it just like doesn't do enough here. All right, Sludge Bomb, definite KO into the Espatra, and then Chi-Yu probably just gets to go for Heat Wave here. But the funny thing is that I don't think it's Choice Scarf because this Landorus is faster. I'm disappointed in myself for forgetting about Terra. And now here's the biggest problem, right? I just don't know if I do enough. I mean, with Raging Bolt on the field, the Landorus is faster than me. I feel like my only option here is to actually just go for Thunderclap into the Landorus. But Lee could just... Oh, but Lee could just go for Protect. Isn't that silly? But I don't want to put myself into a situation where... I survived one. I survived one. Oh! He removed the Chi-Yu. Well, now, if it's a super passive play and he protects the Landorus... I win! I think I still win this! Well, actually, if this is, Focus Sash, then I guess I don't. But, I mean, what are the odds? Like... Delibird just is not very fast. Like, even... Because it's Focus Sash, we know that it's not super fast. But I don't think my Raging Bolt is faster. Because we didn't actually invest max speed into this thing. So I have to imagine that the Delibird is just going to set up Tailwind. I think it has to. This is where I wish I had Electro Web and I had kept it. But I think it gets to set up the Tailwind for free. So I do believe I just go for Thunderclap here. I knew it had Fake Out! I knew it! I knew it! I knew that it had it. And so unfortunately I can't do anything about that. I mean, Lee gets information that I do have bulk investment. But yeah, now I don't think that I can change it. I think Lee just goes for Tailwind here and is able to knock out. Oh, and the Landers is actually just faster regardless, duh. It doesn't even need to go for Tailwind, so I needed to have gone for the Thunderclap there. Oh, GG's to Lee! We're tied up! Woo! This is getting spicy. Okay, in game number 2, things did not go the way that I had hoped they would. I think I missed out on a couple of opportunities to actually get damage down. And while I really liked the Espatra Sandy Shocks choice, I feel like A, I could have played that better. B, I still think that I was kind of missing out on some things. I wonder if there is ever a world where I actually just go... Now it's hard, isn't it? Because I kind of feel like... Well, Delibird is just... Delibird is frustrating. But it really shouldn't be that bad. Just thinking about what Lee decided to bring in the last 2 games, the only thing that's really going to deny my Ninetales is a Choice Scarf Chiyu. I don't really have amazing confirmation. But it hasn't protected in either game. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I think we'll just do this, and honestly, if it doesn't work, then... Okay, so the reason why I'm changing things up as drastically as I am is because I have this game plan stuck in my head that if the Chiyu is not Choice Scarfed, then we can just kind of go for like Scyther and Ninetales and kind of hope for the best. This is kind of a huge adjustment though. I mean, the Delibird here... Oh, if this is a Choice Scarf Chiyu, we're in so much trouble. But if it's not, then we should beat this. If it's not. Oh man, this is like... I really think this was a gamble. This was like an ultra big gamble. I think we're just gonna go for it. I think we're going for it. I know this is so silly. We are going to see a Terra. Ah. And it's the Terra from the Chiyu this time around. It is a ghost type. Scary. Why? Wait, why would he do that? Wow, it is interesting that it's still here, but it's not Choice Scarf because it's not that fast. Oh, well, now this is horrible, but I do think it's just a Raging Bolt switch in. Unless this Delibird is also going for Blizzard. Okay, it's not. It's just gonna go for Tailwind. I've done actually quite a bit of damage here to this Chiyu. No burn. No burn. No burn. Excellent. Now, this is actually quite good. I believe that we will just do this. And honestly, I am going to... just in case that Delibird has Blizzard, I am going to Terra. And I'm going to Thunderclap the Chi-Yu. But I am going to Terra here. It's Florges again. Well, now this isn't amazing because I think that Florges does carry a couple of grass type attacks. But it's also just like not a super strong Pokemon. See? Almost. It has Ice Shard. Now that is interesting. Alright, I'm a little sad that I missed out on that KO. But I do think that just like switching in Rillaboom here is okay. If this Delibird is the set that I think it is, I think leaving it is fine. I mean, they have 2 more turns of Tailwind. Ice Shard is like not phenomenal into the Rillaboom, but I kind of feel like I just don't... I don't know if I want to let it go down here. That's the thing, right? Oh my goodness. I think this is like kind of just the best I can do. I guess I should just let the Delibird go down. I'm panicking. Yeah, so the Calm Mind and the Florges is still not amazing, but with 1 more turn of Tailwind left, I think we're happy to get rid of the Tailwind. The Florges, though, this time around, with a Calm Mind boost and also not being paralyzed, is not great, but I think this is okay. We're going to just go ahead and Grassy Glide here. Oh my gosh, do you think he's ready for this? Like, do I really want my Rillaboom to go down? Like, not really. But would it be really funny if this happened? Yeah, it would. And can he actually KO me on this turn? I don't think he's going to protect. I don't think he's going to protect. He doesn't protect. Okay, so I might lose my Rillaboom for this. Oh, Florges actually is a berry, so that's like quite a bit of HP recovery. But if I can survive with the Assault Vest 2 attacks, I do get to get rid of this Landorus, and that would be quite exciting. And also just show off the Weather Ball tech because I really wanted to do that. Florges gets another Calm Mind boost, and I really dislike that. But it's a +2 special attack, and that's not amazing, but... KO, KO, KO. Yes! I'm so glad that worked. Okay, so in this final scenario, we have no more Tailwind. We have Scyther that's very fast. Only Chi-Yu and Florges left. There's no Choice Scarf on this Chi-Yu, so it could have Protect. But I think, like, I'm pretty sure Dual Wing Beat would just get the KO here. And we have to hope that this Florges doesn't have anything that can actually KO the Scyther. But I do think we're kind of stuck just going for, like, Thunderbolt. I'm going to split the damage. Surely this Flirters cannot take out my Scyther. Oh, maybe I should have just like dual wing beat. No, okay. Oh, it's bulky. That Chiyu is so bulky. Oh my God. That would have never done enough. One of the original calculations that I had was that the Chiyu would actually be able to get maybe about, probably would take like 60%. Oh, what's that? Is that Moonlight? Oh, it's just here for a long time. Okay, well, my goodness. We're close, but we're not out of the woods yet. We still have to deal with this Florges, and it's very bulky. But I think just like continuing to go for dual wing beat and Thunderbolts here is probably the best call. I mean, dual wing beat does a lot. Even though this Florges has had so many boosts to its special defense, Moonblast still only does half to the Scyther, and that's because we're holding that Eviolite. It's gonna be a slow burn, but I think with another dual wing beat, as long as it doesn't miss, we should be good. I don't think that the Thunderbolt by itself is going to be enough, but we're so close. And that should seal it. Let's go. We win week number 1 of the Caster Draft League. Oh my God. I can't believe that we won. Woo! I'm so jazzed that the gravity and hypnosis worked. It did not go super great in game number 2, but in game 3, we clutched it and we got a chance to show off the weather ball tech, which felt so good to see in action. Okay, look, before you all say anything, I 100% should have known that gravity grounds flying type Pokemon, making them susceptible to ground type attacks. We did end up figuring it out to be able to win game number 1, but yeah, I don't know. Battling is super stressful, and in the moment, sometimes you forget things or you just don't clock something right away. In game 1, we stuck to our game plan of leading Espatra and Sandy Sharks and going for gravity and hypnosis right away. I did think about doing something else on that first turn until I assessed the situation and realized we just gotta stick to the plan. Overall, I'm really happy with how that first game went, but I do think that my targeting with the hypnosis could have been a bit cleaner throughout the game. For example, I went for both hypnosis and earth power into the Kilowattrel. I was playing around a potential focus sash, so the idea was that if I don't get the KO with earth power because it survives at 1 HP, then hypnosis is going to prevent the Kilowattrel from attacking. But what I should have done is actually gone for earth power into the Kilowattrel and then go for hypnosis into the Weirdeer. Kilowattrel didn't have the capability of KOing either of my Pokemon, so even if it survives at 1 HP thanks to the Focus Sash, I can just leave it alone. I'm not in danger of getting knocked out on that turn. With Weirdeer, I let it set up a Calm Mind boost, and that ultimately just opens me up to more variants. If Weirdeer had not gone for Calm Mind and let's say gone for something like a Trick Room, then I'm able to deal with the Kilowattrel, but then Chiyu comes in and ends up being faster in the Trick Room mode because both my Espatra and my Sandy Shocks have things that have increased their speed. We are pretty fortunate that Weirdeer did not end up having Trick Room, and we do get the win at the end of game 1. In game 2, there's actually a lot that went wrong that I want to cover because we can always learn from our mistakes. We run back the same leads, but Lee makes an adjustment by leading Delibird and Landorus. On that first turn, I go for the double protect because I'm trying to play around Fake Out, but that was way too passive of a turn to make. Instead, I think I should have just gone for gravity and hypnosis, or just double attacked the Delibird since we still didn't have any information about the item that it was holding. But I definitely needed to make a gamble that the Delibird was going to be slower than both of my Pokemon and not holding a Choice Scarf. I know that I am stuck on this item. I talked about it a lot during this set, I'm talking about it now, but Chiyu holding Choice Scarf was genuinely the one thing that I felt like was going to disrupt a majority of the game plans we had set up for this week. So that's why I put so much emphasis on trying to scout for that item effectively throughout the set. There are 12 Pokemon that we have to prep around for every single Draft League week, and I can only cover so many of those options. So I just left that one to the wind and hoped that we wouldn't have to try to scramble in the moment to deal with something like that. Even though I know we had alternative game plans for if the Chiyu was Choice Scarfed, I just wanted to rely on my fun plans, you know? I just really wanted them to work. I wasn't as worried as much about Lee's other Pokemon choices because I felt like overall our team for this week was really well rounded and equipped to deal with multiple different threats. It was even better that we didn't have to deal with Dondozo or Tatsugiri, and it was just the Landorus Chi combo that I felt like was the really key piece we had to play around for the match. Back to game 2, I know that I said Florges was Aroma Veil, but it doesn't get that ability. I was thinking of Flower Veil, and even that is really not a huge factor in this game because both of Florges' abilities are pretty useless. Flower Veil blocks the stats from being dropped of itself if it is a grass type, which Florges is not, and also its allies if they are grass types. And Lee doesn't have any grass types on this team. So the ability was a non-factor, but I'm addressing it because I obviously misspoke in the moment. The real issue in game 2 was not paying attention to Terra. If I had remembered the terrestrialization was still on the table, I could have just gone for Lumina Crash into the Landorus and then protected the Sandy Shocks to stall out another turn of Tailwind. Alternatively, I let the Sandy Shocks go down, bring in my Rillaboom for free, and then go for Grassy Glide on the following turn. It's hard for me to tell how much HP the Landorus had left after the second Lumina Crash, but based on how low it was and the fact that I found out later that this Landorus does not have any bulk investment, I think with Miracle Seed and the Grassy Terrain active, Rillaboom actually does get the KO with Grassy Glide. And it is not just Lee's Terra, it is my Terra that we should have been paying attention to also in that game too. I should have saved it. Sludge Bomb from Landorus was a clean KO onto Terra Fairy Espatra. If I don't terrestrialize there, then Espatra is able to survive a hit from either Sludge Bomb or Earth Power because we have trained it to do that. Then I have terrestrialization for the Raging Bolt in a 1v2 versus the Chi-Yu and the Delibird, and I like those odds. In this scenario, I am making an assumption that we have KO'd the Rillaboom with Grassy Glide, but the 1v3 with the Raging Bolt without the Terra, we definitely don't win that. Game 3, while we win, is not the cleanest game I've ever played, and my thoughts were not well organized. I know that I am still stuck on this Choice Scarf thing with the Chi-Yu at the beginning of the game, but I actually do know that it is not Choice Scarf because at the end of game 2, we saw Landorus move before the Chi-Yu. Since Landorus is naturally faster than Chi-Yu, we should assume at this point that there are no additional speed modifiers on the Chi-Yu, aka no Choice Scarf. Ninetales and Scyther was an extremely safe lead here. I don't like the play that I made on turn 1. Even though we were sticking to the script of going for Blizzard and U-turn, I opened myself up to unnecessary variance because we had not confirmed yet what the third and fourth move on the Delibird was. In the pre-match, I talked about how Delibird could use Blizzard, so oops. We would have been in huge trouble if the Delibird had just ripped a Blizzard with Raging Bolt switching in, and so I'm really glad that it didn't have that, didn't do that, and went for the Tailwind instead. I also could have used U-turn into the Delibird and knocked it out while making the exact same play. Since we saw the reveal of Focus Sash at the end of game 2, you may be wondering why I didn't just take the confirmed KO onto the Delibird, and that's because there was some risk involved in making that play that I just wasn't willing to take. If Delibird protects and my Scyther doesn't get a chance to pivot out, then we may just get double KO'd by Heatwave. We saw that Heatwave nearly KO'd my Ninetales, which I think is a roll to actually get a one-hit knockout, so it definitely KOs my Scyther, because I found out after the match that Chi-Yu was max special attack, choice specs, and Beads of Ruin were active. A Delibird trade for a Scyther. I just don't think that that trade is very valuable, and ultimately preserving Scyther for the endgame ended up being the correct call, because Scyther was faster than the Chi-Yu and was able to knock it out before we took considerable damage. The only minor error that I made in the endgame is that I should have sent both attacks from the Scyther and Raging Bolt at the Chi-Yu. If, for some reason, the dual Wing Beat misses, then we have to get Raging Bolt to actually clean it up, and we don't want to leave Raging Bolt in a 1v1 versus the Florges. It's just not a matchup that, even with the Terra Water, I think that the Raging Bolt handles very well. Delibird's last move was Endeavor, by the way, so I'm really glad we didn't see that into any one of our more bulky Pokemon like Raging Bolt. Anyways, hindsight is 2020, and I'm still very happy that we got the victory. Next week, we're going to play Shmon, who is a top competitor in VGC and TCG. So I think that facing a double threat should be quite exciting. See you then!